Good morning, monsters, and welcome to this week's episode of Monsters on the Edge here on the Untold Radio Network. I am your host, Barnaby Jones from Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. Good morning, Lee. Welcome to the show. Flat Rock Land, welcome as well. We are good to have you here today. We are live in studio with my guests. We are starting a little late, getting some audio clips all queued up for you guys for today's show, so we got some fun stuff to look forward to. Coming up in just a couple weeks here, we have Obscura Paracon. Myself, Ma, are going to be down in DeKalb, Illinois, March 21st through the 22nd at Obscura Paracon. It's going to be a really good time. It's in a castle. What don't you love about that? And then, guys, coming up, Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd in Delavan, Wisconsin. Myself, fellow Untold Radio host here, Dean Bertram, is going to be there, as well as a lot of other cool guests. If you're into all kinds of modalities from astral projection and CE5 and all the woo and fun stuff on that end, a lot of great people going to be at this event. And then, of course, guys, Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Convention, Saturday, May 9th in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, over 20 speakers and workshops, 40 vendors. It's going to be a great event there, kicking off Friday with a kids' afternoon daylight Bigfoot expedition. Myself, Kelly, Milner Halls, Chris McCurry, and Lauren Smith are going to be leading this, teaching your kids all about the safeties of being out in the woods, what to look for, and stuff of that nature. And then for the more daring, we have the Friday night Bigfoot expedition. Myself, Chris, Lauren, as well as Christina Bloom, Larry Eisler, and Jay Bachochin, Ken Gerhard will all be on this expedition. Then, guys, we head down to Chicago, Illinois for the Chicago Paranormal Convention, Saturday, June 13th in Countryside, Illinois. And just announced, Potographs Packerland. We will be at the Paranormal Conference. Potographs is September 26th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Dustin Perry, Scotty Rourke, a bunch of other great speakers are going to be at that event. And we got a couple libraries coming up in October, Rio and Belleville. And that's what we got coming up for the year here. If you want to meet myself, my team in person, that's where you got to go. But we have an awesome guest here in the back. So let us get to that. All right, guys, my guest on today's show is Sara Brown. She's a Bigfoot enthusiast that lives on an Indian reservation in Washington State. She is half of the Salish Sasquatch team on YouTube, where they collect Bigfoot evidence and experiences. And she's here to share some of that with you today. Please welcome Sara Brown. Sara, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. We have a lot of cool stuff to share with everybody today, some pictures, video, audio, and that. Looking forward to this. So first off, tell us a little bit about you live on the reservation. Tell us, I'd like to know, start out with what do the people, the Salish people believe? Like, what is their tribal knowledge of these creatures?
Well, I've found that there isn't a blanket belief. There's multiple beliefs within all of the tribes. Some people don't believe at all. Some people think that they're a spiritual creature that walks between worlds. And then some people think that they're like an ancient type of human, like a relative of some sort. The only thing I haven't heard them call is an ape. They don't think that it's just an animal. So that's really about it. Even within Jonathan's family, his father had many brothers and sisters, and there's different beliefs just throughout his family alone. There's some that think it's crazy to even believe in them. But one thing that seems to be said straight across the board is respect. No matter what it is, just they have a respect for them, you know. They don't really go looking for them or anything like that. It's more it's hard to explain that one, but it's more of a, you know, they just have more of a respect for them.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, it seems like, you know, that goes a long way, having the respect. I mean, like with any interaction with people or animals or spirits or whatever you have, the respect is generally, you know, like one of the most important things you can have, because if you don't respect, you know, a lot of people like that go ghost hunting and stuff, go out and, you know, try and challenge, or, you know, like, you know, the provoking of the spirits and stuff. And these are spirits of people that have passed, and you don't want to treat a spirit of somebody any worse than you treat, you know, your neighbor or something. And the same with Bigfoot or Sasquatch or something, these creatures out in the woods or in your own backyard and stuff. You don't want to treat them any worse than you treat your neighbor, because you're going to have repercussions no matter what it is. So
yeah, we don't really, even when we go camp and things with our friends or out here, we don't necessarily go looking for them. We just camp and let them come into us and see if we can have an encounter or collect, you know, some good audio or some good stories.
Very cool. Very cool. So you have, I believe it was 2012, you kind of started the whole journey on your own property, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it was 2012. I mean, the history of them being on this property goes way back, but that's when we first started realizing that they were, you know, right here. Jonathan had heard stories of a large footprint being found outside of his grandfather's fish house, his smokehouse. And I don't know how many smokehouse stories you've heard throughout tribes, but there's a lot of them. It seems like almost every tribe has some type of story where they raid the fish houses for smoked fish. And so John always knew they existed. I had no clue these creatures existed until 2012. I had no clue. It took a lot of convincing after that. It took a lot of encounters for me to be fully convinced, because I would try to write it off as something else. But 2012 is when it started. And 2012 through 2014 were crazy years, very, very active years. And then kind of faded, and now it's been very active the last couple years again.
Very cool. Well, when did you? Because I know the property is John's like family's property and stuff. When did you move on to the property?
Almost 16 years ago.
So how much farther before 2012 was that?
Let's see. 2 years before.
Okay. So looking back at those first 2 years, did you have any kind of like, like the whistles or the knocks or any
I
kind
never thought about it, and I wasn't really an outdoorsy person.
yeah.
I grew up in the city, and so when I moved out here, it just kind of it transformed me, and changed me into this outdoorsy person. And I had to learn everything from scratch. I didn't know, like, I didn't even know the crazy sounds that coyotes can make, or owls.
Mhm.
So even in 2012 till probably 2015, I was learning all of those different sounds.
Very good. That's fair. I mean, so basically any weird noise in the woods was a weird noise to you then at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought everything was a Sasquatch.
All right. Well, that's fair. All right. So okay, so 2012 is what was the big encounter that started everything for you guys then?
John's daylight sighting.
Okay.
And we think that that daylight sighting is the same one that we've seen 4 times. We think it's the same in the last since 2012. We think he saw it, and then we think it was the same one in his thermal video. And then the daylight photo I sent you, I think that's the same one. And then I saw him in 2024.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, so let's pause and talk a little bit about the unit or the group or whatever that you have on the property. How many do you think frequent the property there? What does the family unit kind of look like?
There seems like there's 3 to 4 of them. So before 2024, I think it was, we had taken a hiatus from Bigfooting for years. We still would hear them and stuff, but I wasn't like gathering evidence. We just wanted a break, just from everything and the subject itself. So I would still hear them, but I wasn't collecting. And so I don't know how much sooner this had come along, but up until that period, I was only recording 3 individuals, except for a few times where it sounded like a rogue group would come through. And I do have a recording of what I believe is that group. But I was picking up 3. We would call it the big guy, which is the one that we think that we see, a female, and then I would call one the yip yeller because he always would yell yip. And that seemed more like teenage behavior from that one, like just yelling weird things and a little bit more bold. And then 2024, there was someone out here that did a year-long audio recording here with a long-term recorder and captured some fantastic audio clips, even though it wasn't in the best spot. It's about 500 feet away from our house. And he captured some really good things. And he's the first one that said, I think that there's a 4th one now, because I'm catching all 3 of those individuals, but it sounds like there's a 4th one. And then that was later confirmed with sightings and audio clips. Not just sightings from me seeing a small one, but a neighbor seeing a small one, and another neighbor that way, his guest seeing a small one.
Interesting.
So I think there's 4.
Okay. So how big of a reservation is this? Like miles or like how big is it?
Well, it's spread out. So our land isn't just one chunk of land. I mean, the main reservation's like 7 miles, I want to say something. It's pretty small, but it spreads out. We have pockets of land all over,
Okay.
So
what I was kind of wondering was, okay, so you know that you've talked about like other neighbors and stuff having these sightings and stuff. I'm wondering like how big of an area you've kind of mapped this individual group to.
Well, I can't really confirm how far this group goes. All I can say is that I've captured them year round on audio. I
Okay.
don't think that they have to go too far. I think that whether they migrate and how far they travel depends on resources and what they need. But I've learned that if everything they need is in a small area, I don't think they really go outside of that too much. You know, why would you need to? And with them being so elusive, it makes more sense for them to have a smaller territory so that they know every inch of that territory. Anything that's out of place or new or whatever it may be. I, I can't I can't confirm if this group is the same group that spotted more towards Capitol Forest. We don't think it is. And also, the other side of the reservation, someone found a print last year, and it was not the same print that we get here. It was totally unfamiliar print. I've never seen that. So I don't know. I wish we had more answers as to like family dynamics. Like, do their clans do they overlap territory? Is it family dynamics? I really don't know. All I can say is this this group, I believe, is spotted about 3 miles to 5 miles away as the crow flies, in one direction. But I'm not sure that they go much further than that. I'm not sure they go outside of that because they've got spring-fed creeks here, which is prime water. There's so many minerals in there, sulfur, different things. And then you've got multiple river sources with fish runs in both fall and spring. And then you have huge apple groves, walnut groves, different berries throughout. The forests here are food forests. You can even eat the ferns. So I just don't think they go that far.
That's fair. And that, I mean, you keep saying, you can't confirm anything or don't know anything, but that's still a lot of information. I mean, the fact that you've gathered audio of these individuals for an entire year, you know that they're always there. That's valuable information right there, just to know that they're not going outside the area, that they're not hibernating, they're not migrating that far. I mean, that's terrific right there. So I wouldn't put anything down on that at all. It's terrific that you've been able to gather that much knowledge and information. And you're right. If they have all the resources, the fresh water, the food sources year round and everything, why would you leave? And that's very good. So awesome. Awesome. Um, so outside of the area, do you go do research outside of your 7 mile area, or have
Oh
you
yeah.
outside the US?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we have seasonal spots. Our main spot is where we focus on our YouTube channel is Gifford Pinchot.
Okay.
That's like our main spot. We have a few places throughout the year that we go to just based on resources and sightings and things like that. Like Packwood is one of our areas, and a few other places further into the Gifford Pinchot, and we collect fantastic evidence from those places. There's also a place near here that we go to, and we recently captured some eye shine on video that was pretty cool. We can't confirm what it is, but whatever it is, it's high up, and those eyes are very far apart. It's not a small animal. Um, yeah, we just move around with the resources, and then we focus on our place, but you don't always get you don't always get evidence. Like, even when I was telling you that I've captured audio of them year round, that's not like every month of the year in one year. That's like one year I caught it in June, but the next year I didn't catch it in June. It's sporadic in that way. But there's even been times where it was in the heat of the summer. I think it was like 2023, I want to say. Jonathan and I were outside, and it was so hot out, And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, broad daylight, we hear one clearing its throat down by the creek. We're like, they're here right now? That's crazy, So I think they're always kind of lurking in their territories. They're always, keeping tabs on who's doing what, making sure no other Sasquatch have come into their resources.
I think that you'd mentioned this on another show too, that you think that they're very drawn to like the autistic people because they're very regimented or regime, that they do the same thing, the same behaviors. They're safe. That that at this time they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and I think that that's pretty common. We've had that on other properties and stuff that I've investigated and worked on. That if they go out and mow the lawn at a certain time, or they go out and do this every day at a certain time, and I think that provides a level of safety for them, and knowing that that's there. So
yeah, Christopher Noel talks a lot about that, and we've just found it seems like there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of people that people are not aware of too, that seem to have a lot of encounters with them. And if you look at those people, they're all kind of the same personality. They're all the most disarming people. And I think that's the key to it. It's the most disarming human, because Sasquatch is so curious. I think we can all agree on that now, that they're so curious. And they seem to be masters at reading our intentions and body language. And I think that with these people, like Jonathan's uncle who lived in a trailer on our property, he was one of them. He had the same routine every day, did the same thing every day, ate the same thing every Monday, ate the same thing every Tuesday. And they would mess with him. And this is kind of telling too, he was in denial of them. He would tell us about them he would hear them clearing their throats, smacking his trailer, wood knocks, whatever. And he was in denial until I saw that one in 2024. And it was my body language that convinced him. It was my body language, So I think that there's a certain thing there. There's a dynamic kind of there where Christopher, do you know who Christopher Noel is?
I do. Yeah, we've had him speak up here at a convention.
I think that's really good research what he's done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Have you noticed if the behavior of was it is uncle?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you noticed like if his behavior is off a day, like if the schedule gets disrupted or something, do you notice more, not like aggressive, but more like agitated behavior from the creatures?
Well, he passed away in 2024, late 2024. And there were multiple individuals that over a decade ago, Scott Taylor's one of them, Derek Randall's, David Ellis, they all said that when he passed away, there would be a reaction. And there was a reaction. We captured, my friend Steve Edwards had his recorder out here. He captured audio of them banging on his trailer. I had about 2 weeks later, I had them come tap on my window. It sounded like a fingernail tapping, and then it would stop and then tap, tap, tap. And there were some vocals and things captured. So as for that, that's all I can really say. Whether there was a difference is after he passed. Yeah, there was a reaction.
Kind of like looking for him. What happened? Why aren't you doing the things that you're supposed to be doing right now?
Yeah, possibly.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. We are live, guys. I see a bunch of comments and stuff. I'm going to kind of go over here and grab some of this for now. Kaiju Ninja says, Sarah, do you excuse me, before you moved onto the property, were you aware of previous activity in the area before you moved in?
That's my friend Tristan. Hi, Tristan Yolton. So like I said, it was just tribal stuff that was passed down. I wasn't aware, except for what Jonathan told me about his father's smokehouse. or his grandfather's smokehouse, and his dad would even hear whistles, and stuff that he thought maybe was a cougar. But that's it. Since then, oh man, the stories I've heard here. If I could make a video about the tribal stories here, it would just blow your mind. Crazy encounters, you know. And that's a big reason why we do our YouTube channel, is because we want to preserve stories, preserve encounters, so that every generation doesn't have to start over. And unfortunately, a lot of the tribal stories are really difficult to get. They're very, very hard to get, but man, they are incredible because they're immersed in it, Tribal lands are always Sasquatch territory.
All right. You have a bunch here from Kaiju Ninja. Do you think that there are different groups that come through, and do you think that they get along with each other? Also, have your neighbors talked about the activity? You kind of talked about that one, but what about the other groups in the area?
Well, just that a rogue group that I told you about, it seemed like that was like the 2012 to 2014 time frame. We heard them live a few times. There was one night where we live multi-generational here on the reservation. My mother-in-law still lives here in this house with us. And she came in one night. She said, the Sasquatch are outside going crazy. I can hear him across the road, and I can hear him in the woods next to us. So we ran out there, and it was very, very, it was very dark in the woods. And as I'm listening to what sounded like this rogue group across the road, out of my peripheral, I caught red lights. And so that's when I looked over, and that was the first and only time I've seen those red eyes, red glowing eyes. And it seemed to be associated with anger or something, at this. He was howling they were yelling back and forth, and again, that's the only time I've seen red eyes. I've seen white glowing eyes, but never red till that moment.
Any
a
other
lot of people get upset about that too, and say there's no way no other primate has red eyes. But I think Sasquatch, I think everything they do is explainable through science. We just don't know those yet because there's not another creature that does it. There's not another creature that can see perfectly into the night like they can. I've seen them scale trees and bushes out here, heard them scale trees and bushes to where I was fully convinced that they can see perfectly at night. And that just, data has filled that in. Data has told us that they can see perfectly.
Have you said red and yellow. Have you seen any other different colored eyes?
No, that's all I've seen.
Interesting. I think you're absolutely right with the science will prove it, because I think that a lot of that is the tapetum lucidum in the back of the eye, the night vision screen. And it might just be that with such big eyes that the blood vessels or something, the blood in the back of the eye makes it appear red. Whereas the other animals maybe don't have as much blood flowing through the back of their eye, or there's scientific reasons as to why you would have that, but I think that just because we haven't had one to study and research, that we don't know those answers yet. So awesome. We have one more question here to catch up with. Flat Rockland says, I feel there's a migration through the Capitol Forest from the peninsula to the Cascades and back. What are your thoughts on that?
A lot of people suspect that, and probably is, because Capitol Forest is getting so destroyed right now by logging. Like it's just a thin layer of trees that follows the creek. Everything else is just destroyed. So yeah, I think that's one of the places where they definitely go through to the Cascades. And again, these Sasquatches that live on the edge of civilization, like they have an advantage and don't have to travel as far, because you've got agricultural, you got cornfields, trees, fruit trees. They raid chicken coops. They raid animal feed. Yeah, I agree with that.
Very cool. All right, we are live, guys, as you should have seen. So if you guys have any other questions, throw them in the comments section. We'll get to them as we come up here. Another one from Kaiju Ninja. What times of the year seem more active? And can you talk about the thermal footage, which we have? We can show that as well.
Definitely active times of the year. Our most active is October, November with
Mhm.
that fish run, and also other berries and stuff, you know, apples, walnuts. And then April, May, we have some fantastic evidence from April and May. And same thing, we have a fish run. So, yeah, fall and spring, 100%. The thermal footage, the thermal footage was captured by Jonathan and his brother. That was in 2012, October 30th. And there were cows behind the field at that time. We don't do there's not cows here anymore because the tribe's trying to restore the creek and the cows would trample through the creek too much. So they're trying to do restoration here, and I'm glad for that because we have beautiful spring flowers and stuff that you couldn't see when the cows were here. They would eat them. But the cows, this flood fields, and the cows can only be here 6 months out of the year when they were here. So they were moving the cows that day that the thermal footage was taken, and half of the cows had been removed. It was so loud and so obnoxious that I didn't even set audio out that night because the cows were just bellowing, because half their herd had been taken. So Jonathan first heard tapping on a tree at the ridge behind our house, and that's when they found that Sasquatch on the ridge. And that some people swear that that's a cow, but people have over and over for over a decade since that have come out, they've tried to make that a cow, and you just can't make that a cow. Also, what you're looking at right now, I went through the thermal footage frame by frame, and there was one point where my brother-in-law had the camera at this point, and Jonathan whistled, and he said that the Sasquatch elongated its neck like this and looked right at the camera, and it took him back. He went, whoa, and took him back because of how amazing it was. It was looking right at him. Um, this is that clip right here that you're seeing. And do you notice that blackout across the chest coming off of the left side of the screen? Yep, that's a branch. It goes across his chest. That's a branch that was 60 feet away while he's between 120 and 125 feet away. So that's what's causing that. But you can see eye sockets, and if you know anything about thermal footage, the eyes glow the hottest. And look at the nose. The nose is cold. The trapezius muscles. You can also see, look at the clavicle bone. And also, most important, I believe, is that sagittal crest. So you look at this and you say, okay, well, maybe it's a big human, but this big human has a 4-foot shoulder mass.
Mhm.
A very thorough investigation was done on this by multiple credible people. Phil Pulling came out, David Ellis, Derek Randalls and his wife. Like, we beat this to the ground, this thermal. And somebody said it was hot rocks. Well, there's a man named Bigfoot Tony that has a YouTube channel. I wish he was still active. He did such good breakdowns, but he stabilized it and found that it actually sways and also bobs up and down, which is similar with Sasquatch behavior. I saw one swaying one time, and multiple other people have seen them sway as well. It seems like it's kind of a nervous thing that they do. And so you had that aspect, and then on top of that, you had the footprint that was cast. There were both prints, but one, so he's standing on a slope. The reason he's cut off under the chest is because that's a ridge that drops down. He's standing on a slope that's about like this. It's very steep. And so one of the prints we couldn't cast. It was too sloped. The stuff just would have run down. But we cast one of them. Cliff Barrickman has the original at NABC, and it's a really good footprint. It's bent as if it's like gripping the ground. 16.5-inch prints. We found other 16.5-inch prints. So you have all this evidence that correlates this thermal, as being a Sasquatch. And I don't know what else it could be. I really don't. Especially with that crest up there on
Yeah.
the top of the head.
Yeah, we had a couple questions here. There's a clip. It's only one frame. Are there more? Yes, there's a whole video. It's about 2.5 minutes long. I will play it here in just a second. We do have it here, but I wanted to make that clear that this is a video. But this is a clip that we're looking at. But
Yeah, this is the best shot from
yeah,
the video.
and like you said, I've done a lot of thermal research and stuff myself. I have a thermal imager in that, and that's not a cow. And
No, you see its ears too. And
yeah.
you would see, yeah, it's
Mhm.
just not a cow. A cow doesn't look anything like that. We had a guy come out here. He was determined to debunk this. And he came out here and um, for hours outside, went to the cow pastures and tried to get it to make it look like this. And he couldn't do it. So he was convinced that it was Sasquatch.
Mhm. It is very much what a person would look like on thermal, but the difference is on a person your clothing blocks out the heat, so your head and your hands and stuff and your neck would show up brighter, whereas this is all more uniform, telling me more that there's not clothing or anything else on it, that this is one solid creature, whatever it is. Like it's not wearing clothing or something of a person like you had mentioned as well. So
And
I think it's
also common with Sasquatch sightings is people describe them as not having a neck.
mhm,
And look at how that head just blends in.
mhm.
I wonder, is it just the way they're made, or is it because those muscles are so large that it just kind of fills in this spot?
Yeah, it would seem like they do have a neck, obviously, but like you said, with the trap muscles, if you look at a lot of like bodybuilders and like professional wrestlers and stuff, the trap muscles are so big and pronounced that they have a hard time turning their head because it's all one thing there. So yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so I can play the video. There is no audio, so if you're listening to this on an audio podcast, you might want to go watch the video on our YouTube channel, which is Untold Radio Network on YouTube. But if you're watching live, check out the video. Here we go. Very cool. That's
I wish that you could see your rendition was a little bit more blurry than it is. It is blurry because this is old technology. I mean, that was such an old unit. They've come so far. Now, if we got thermal with some of the cameras that our friends have, you would see veins, you know.
Mhm.
But I wish that we could see the very end because it seems like it turns its body in a weird way at the very end. It does something weird. I really wish I could see that better. But yeah, somebody says the cow doesn't seem to be bothered.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be bothered here. And I asked the man that has those cows. He's a cattle farmer here, and he rents out um, property all over the reservation. And I asked him if he's ever had a cow go missing, and he said not even a calf. And he's even heard them one time. He heard them and couldn't see them. His 13-year-old nephew went with him over to the barn, and they heard one talking and could not see them. And his nephew's so terrified he'll never go back there with him. He also saw one bathing in the river. So he's aware of them, you know, but he said, yeah, nothing messes with his cows.
Yeah, no, that was Lee brought that point up here, and I was going to make that same point watching this video. Is that cow just walks through the screen like it's not bothered at all, and that's really weird. That if this thing was aggressive or any way or any kind of predator behavior or anything, that cow would not go anywhere near that thing, you know. So that's really
It's incredible. And then if you remember that the reason they started looking through the thermal was because it was tapping on a tree.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder, was it trying to calm them down? You know, what was it doing tapping? It wasn't trying to get the guy's attention. It was focused on the cows.
Question then: are there any horse farms or anything on the reservation? Any horses at all? Have you heard any stories of like the braiding of the manes or anything of that nature?
No, I've heard that on other reservations, the Nez Perce reservation.
Oh, okay.
But never here. There's some horses, you know, outside of the reservation and stuff, but I don't know of any stories.
Interesting. Kaiju Ninja says, there we go, a little delayed. It's probably the same way how they sneak up on prey like a deer. Now, it would be interesting. I don't, obviously, maybe you don't know at the time, but like which way the wind was blowing or anything, if the creature was like downwind from the cows at all. I don't know.
Yeah. I bet you they were aware that it was there.
I would bet as well. Yeah.
Cows can smell really well.
Interesting. Okay, so you gave me the Sasquatch location picture. Is that the daylight photo or is that the thermal?
That's daylight.
Okay. So we'll hold off on that for a second.
Photo.
All right.
Do you want me to explain that?
Yeah, we can do that. I was just checking. I had some questions for you, but they're not pertaining to this, so we'll come back to that. So yeah, we can go to that.
Okay, so that was that 2013? I think that was 2013, October of 2013. Do you know who Shannon LeGros is?
I do, yes.
Okay, so she was over. The night before, there was a large group of us outside by our gazebo, and something was in a thermal video where that picture was taken, and we weren't sure if it was a head popping up or something on a down tree. So the next day, it was just Shannon and I trying to recreate where I was standing when we took the thermal, where everything was. And we were having a hard time doing that. So I took a Sony Handycam at the time and I snapped a photo so that we could use that because it had a screen, and that way we could use the screen and line up with the thermal and say, okay, this is where we were, Well, we never ended up using that screenshot. And the creature in the thermal ended up being something on a down log. Trying to look like a Bigfoot, though. It looked like a head popping up. So almost a year later, I'm going through SD cards because I was recording audio almost every night and I needed more room. I constantly was making more room. And I pop it in my computer and there's only one file on that, and it's that thumbnail. I could see from the thumbnail, I could see its head. And so I blew it up and I was just blown away because he's the very focal point of the picture. Now, this is blurry because this is about, it's between 120 and 125 feet away, like the one on the ridge. And this is, you're seeing from here down, you're seeing brambles, blackberry bushes, and shrubs. And the head is just incredible, though, that red head, the red tint. And if you see that, this was around noon, so you could see the sun glints on the foliage. We weren't sure all these years if these were sun glints on his head or if that was discoloration.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw him March 2024, it was confirmed it was discoloration. He was extremely two-toned, as two-toned as you can get. Very, very red, and then a lighter grayish, blondish red. So, and I could see that patch of it across his face, and then he had a patch here. So if you notice, look at that brow though, that deep set brow and those almond eyes. You know, I love this piece of evidence. It solidified everything for me. I had seen one swaying through thermal. Jonathan had gotten his thermal. I had heard them countless times, but there was part of me that held on to, a belief that had been instilled in me for so long. And I would always try to kind of rationalize it. But this changed everything for me. I just love this piece of evidence. I think that it's so significant because you don't really get to see them during the day very often.
Mm-hmm.
Sightings are so fleeting. Most of the time, you're not going to have your wits about you to even pull out a camera and capture it. And the only reason I captured this is because I didn't know it was there, and neither did Shannon. We had no clue. And so that Sasquatch location photo I sent you is where he was standing, and that gives you a better idea of his view right there. So he was standing over those brambles looking in at us. And I stood on top of a chair and measured, and the top of his head is around the 7.5-foot mark.
Wow. And you can see there's nothing, there's no logs or trees or anything there that, was mistaken for something else either. It's just open back there. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And then along with the, Jonathan's daylight sighting, the thermal footage, and then my sighting in 2024, like it kind of seems like it's the same Sasquatch. We're looking at about the same height, the same colors.
Yeah, it definitely looks like like a gorilla head in that picture, the way that it's formed. And
there is part of them that has animal qualities. Part of them is very human-like, but part of them is animal-like, and then part of them is like, I like to describe them as like a superhuman wild man that has animalistic behavior, because they really are like superhuman. And people, I think, in the field tend to leave that part out again about them and just focus on the 8 qualities, and they're far too intelligent to just be under us. Like they can outdo us in all ways when it comes to the forest.
Very cool.
Do you want me to tell you about my camera projects?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so this started in 2012, and this is why I'm not harping on anybody for doing cameras. If you want to try cameras, different types of cameras, more power to you, But as for me, I tried all sorts of cameras, and I found that the only thing cameras would do was deter them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is. I don't think it has to be a supernatural reason why they are deterred from the cameras. It could be simple reasons. Matt Parrish brings up the smell of the batteries, like what dogs are trained to smell. It could be something as simple as them being so aware of their territory that they notice when something's out of place, something's new. It could be the vibration of it. It could be electromagnetics, whatever it is. I think it's beyond infrared, though, because there's non-infrared cameras that have been used. There's tens of thousands of trail cameras that are documented across the United States. and we would have hundreds of thousands of images. There would be so many. I myself would have thousands to contribute. If you know what I mean, I would have so many if those worked. I would have hundreds of images of them clearing every last cherry on my tree over in one night. Thousands of cherries, 15 feet up high. I would have amazing footage of them. And that's just our rule. When we go out with our group, we do not allow stationary cameras because we've tried all types. I tried trail cameras all across the ridge. At one point, I had these tiny, they're about this big, little oval shaped cameras that would come on. They were Wi-Fi cameras that would come on with motion detection, and never would catch anything with those. And then I even went to thermal cameras, and I had thermal cameras in the best places. And you know, I would try something and it wouldn't work. So I would adjust it and that wouldn't work. So I just would keep adjusting it. Finally, I threw it out. That's trail cameras was the first thing to go. I was like, this is never going to catch one. Some people say that they've caught one. Maybe there is.
Have you tried with your trail cameras? Obviously, there's the motion, the motion capture trail cameras. Have you tried time lapsing them? Because we did a similar experiment on a property where instead of doing the motion activated trigger, we set them back farther from where we were trying to pinpoint, and then just took one picture every 5 minutes. And we actually caught one on camera with that method. So they don't have to walk 25 feet in front of the camera. They think that they're safe because they're 100 feet out. But as long as that camera takes a picture, it can see, 1,000 feet in the distance if something walked there. But I whatever you want to do with your property and stuff, but just something to think about, like put it way farther back if you have the ability, and put it on time lapse and see what you get. But
well, that would use a lot of data. That would be a lot of reviewing. But I have noticed that on traffic cameras have captured some images, but they're too far off,
Yep.
For you to make anything with. And I think that goes along with what you're saying. It's far enough away, to where they don't even know it's there. But I feel like I'm to the point now where, like, I want something 100 feet away or closer.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not, you have so much stuff piled up to show anybody that wants to know. And if these blobby things aren't going to work, then we got to up our game, So what we do is we're all about having thermal cameras and cameras on us. We always do when we're out. Multiple people have, in our group have good thermal cameras. And if we hear something, we've got a drone pilot that's always with us. Our friend Virgil, he'll put his, drone up in the air. But we just try to tread really lightly with technology, really lightly, because I've found that you can run them out pretty quick. Mm-hmm. You can reroute them. Do you know who Robert Leiterman is? He did the Butt Creek Project. Mm-hmm. He told me that he's finding that they can funnel them to an area by using trail cameras. And that goes along with, what I'm saying, that they seem to repel. We've gotten multiple comments on our YouTube channel from people saying, I live in rural Washington and everybody here knows that you use those as repellent, to get rid of them when they're pests, when they're, taking your chicken eggs, taking your chickens, your dog feed, whatever.
Interesting. All right, we have a couple comments here I want to go through. Just these go back to the horses and stuff that we were talking about earlier. Carl's up says, I found braided horse manes once out on Long Island. And another comment says, my daughter had to cut ugly braids out of horses' manes regularly. So just kind of wanted to throw those out there. This one, this one. My technology is not working here. I click it and it doesn't go.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Hi, Patrick.
Do you think that people are tagged? And I think what that means is like, are certain people more likely to see them? Like that they've tagged these people as trustworthy or something?
Well, I don't want to bash anybody's theories or anything. It could be a tagging of some sort, but it also could be a simple explanation as to what I was saying about them observing people.
Mhm.
I think they know exactly what type of person everybody is when they see them, you know? I think they know exactly who's there for what reason. They know a hunter, they know a camper, they know somebody who's on the spectrum. I think they know that right away from just watching people and learning body language. So it could be that because there definitely is something to it. There's definitely something to more people having activity. I know of people that if they're around, you can count on it not getting activity too, you know?
Mhm.
And it seems like I'm not putting these people down. Some of these are my friends, but it seems like some of them are more uh, a little less humble in the woods. You know, like out to get them. Like I'm gonna outdo them. I'm gonna,
Yeah.
not quite as respectful and humble. So there is something to it, but it could just be reading body language.
Kaiju Ninja again. Has anyone caught anything on your property with the newer thermal cameras?
No. So we only have a FLIR Scout. We're looking at cameras. We would like to get a thermal camera in the next year, a really good thermal camera. But no, we don't. We only have a Scout, and I don't know if you know what a FLIR Scout is, but that's like as bottom of a barrel as you want to get, right? It's good for hunting and things like that. Or if a Sasquatch is 30 feet away, it's great. But you don't want to get, you're going to get a way bigger blob than we got if you get something with a FLIR Scout 100 feet away. I don't even know that it would be worth sharing, you know.
Have you got any kind of orbs or odd phenomenon on your property?
Oh, yeah, we've had the weird stuff too. Yep. I've seen orbs a few times, but the weirdest one I saw was like green and yellow. It was pretty big too, and it was, I don't know what you say, floating, flying above the tree line, and it had like this comet tail of green and yellow, and it was weird. It was like it was looking for something, It was super weird. That's the only time I've seen something like that weird. But we also had a UFO over our house a couple of years ago. UFOs are not my thing, but I acknowledge they're real. You know, yeah, we get the strange stuff for sure.
Very cool. Have you had any kind of like dogman evidence or anything, any of that sort?
Um, Actually, one of the audio clips I sent you, we're
Okay.
not sure what it is, but it sounds weird. And there's been a few people when we posted that said that was a dog man. I'm not into dog man. That's another thing that I don't care to ever see.
Yeah.
I don't
No, I
want
don't
to
blame
see it
you.
at all. Um, and but our neighbor, not far away, knows of somebody just down the road that has one tormenting him.
Jesus.
It torments him, yeah. So there are sightings of them around here, but I've never seen one, and I never hope to. That's
It's
too much. That creature's too much for me.
yeah, yeah. It seems like a lot of the stories that people say is you either have one or the other. Like
Oh,
they
good.
like get along very well. I don't know. And there are some stories of them seeing them traveling together. So I mean, with anybody, even like people or anything, you have nice ones, you have jerk ones and stuff. So maybe there's certain Bigfoot that do get along with certain dog man or whatever. But it seems for the most part, most of them are kind of opposites. But we do have audio clips. I want to get to these before we wrap things up here as well. So she sent me a bunch of these here, and I have no data on them, so I guess I'm going to play them, and we'll discuss them afterwards. They just are audio clip on my end. So here we go. This is the first one.
So those are looped. You don't have to play it as many
Oh,
times if you don't want to.
okay.
But we don't know what that is. Some sort of singing,
Yeah, that's what I was
some
gonna
sort of
say.
very, very weird singing in a language that we don't know. We
At,
have a few clips like that.
at first, it sounded like a dog barking, but then the more that it looped, it sounded more like
Yeah.
like more singing. Yeah. So okay, and we have this one. No, okay. I didn't
Do you know what that is? It's weird.
No,
It's
no,
weird.
no.
And it's just that's how we've heard them talk. It seems like Thomas Seawood says, it's like a native language, but it's pidgin. It's pidgin. It's not, fluid. And we've heard the female talk in that way too. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I sent you that audio clip where it's just like pigeon words that are unrecognizable. That one was at 3 a.m. Who's out talking like that at 3 a.m?
This was the first one I played. Elizabeth Vickers says the dogs looked around with that clip. So interesting with that one. So, all right, clip number 3. Here we go. Is that 2 of them, or what is the deeper?
Two creatures. It sounds like a female and then a male coming in. That's one of my favorite audio clips that I've ever picked up, because Jonathan and his brother, we've heard them talking a few times. When Jonathan had his daylight sighting, we heard them chattering and stuff in the woods. But Jonathan and his brother heard almost that identical saying that she does at the beginning, that yeah, yeah, yeah. They heard that live one night in the front of the house, and they booked it to the front and didn't see anything. But yeah, we've heard that live. And then it almost sounds like an argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's coming in and barking back at her about something.
I'll let that one play a little bit here. Yeah, she's kind of like nagging him, and he's like,
How it sounds. Yeah, it sounds like she's closer to the border than him.
Uh-huh. All right, next one. There you go. And they are looped again for anybody that was listening. Yeah, so it's not
just a weird howl.
Yeah.
I think the next one that somebody thought was a dog man, I don't know what it is.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Are they coming through loud enough for you guys? Okay, good.
I can hear them.
Okay. All right. Last one here, and this is the dog man, possibly. Is there a dog barking as well on that one?
Set the dogs off, yeah.
Yeah. It does sound more canine, kind of like wolf undertone, but not quite. Yeah.
But powerful though.
Yeah. Want to listen to that one again? It's definitely got power to it, like you said. It sounds like it's farther off in the distance and kind of a little bit echoing, but it doesn't have the typical of the Sasquatch calls. So. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but
No, either.
yeah, it's a weird one. So,
It is weird.
I think we have one more question here that I have marked. Have you had some casted footprints? Have you ever had? Have found and casted footprints. Have you found any hair or handprints?
So we've casted the footprint. Oh, we found such a good print one time. Jonathan and a guest found the best footprint, and they tried to cast it, but the mix was too watery and it didn't hold. Um, we don't find prints here very often. We find impressions, but not prints. Our ground is very hard here. As for hair and handprints, no.
It looked like I was going to point out here this on your recreation picture here. It looks like you have like a barbed wire fence running through here,
Mm-hmm.
right? You ever like look in that area and nothing hanging
Yeah.
or nothing? Yeah.
Yep. Here's another thing too: is like, who would you send it to? Who in academia is going to get behind, physical evidence like this? We had Meldrum, but
Oh, right now you have,
like,
you have
only go
Darby.
so far with academia.
You have Darby Orcutt is working on it from North Carolina or South Carolina University. He's doing a lot of DNA analysis right now. So
Yeah.
but that's the only person I know that's really actively working on it. So yeah, you're right. And then who do you trust? That you can send stuff to and that. So
Exactly. Yeah. And who doesn't have an agenda? Who doesn't, that's another thing.
absolutely. Very cool. All right, guys. If you guys have any last minute questions, I think I got to them all. If I didn't, I apologize. Throw it in there again for me, and we'll get to it before we wrap up the show here today. Thank you so much for your time. Can you tell everybody about your YouTube channel, what's on there, what people can look for on there?
So our YouTube channel is called Salish Sasquatch, and you can find everything on there. You can find stuff from our property as well as our campouts with our groups of friends. We cover the Gifford Pinchot. Sometimes we go to the Cascades, and we go to a couple Airbnbs that are squatchy. There's a lot of good stuff on there. There's a lot of good interviews, a couple good tribal interviews, and that's about it.
Very cool. And that's important. Like you said, you try and get all the stories and to save that for the future generations, all the people that have had encounters and experiences and stuff. And that's very valuable. I would suggest if you can't get them to appear on camera, you should write a book and get all those. I know it's a lot of work. I have several books in process right now for the last couple of years, and I haven't made much progress on them. But it would be for the people that don't want to appear on camera and remain anonymous in their stories. It'd be something to think about that you could get that out there as well. So something to think about. But awesome. Doesn't look like a wonderful show. Thank you to myself and Sarah. Thank you for being on. Great interview, all kinds of stuff. So thank you so much for being on. Looks like everyone enjoyed the show and appreciated all your evidence and footage, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and nice to meet you.
If you want to, thank you too. If you, one final thought, what do you want people to take away from all this, everything that you've learned, experienced? What do you want to leave people with today?
Just be open-minded to the subject, I guess. I think we all can kind of, harp on people for not doing things the same way we do, or, using different theories or technology or whatever. And I think everybody's trying to learn together. So I don't know. I wish everybody in the subject was just a little bit kinder to each other and more open-minded, because nobody knows. I don't know. I don't even know half the audio I'm collecting. I just try to share it and let people decide.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And I appreciate all your honesty of, the I don't know is always a valid question. And I try and dig deep into stuff. And like I said, I try and ask questions that other people on podcasts and stuff haven't asked you already and stuff. So I don't know is a completely valid answer, and it just means that we're still learning and still experiencing and still going out there. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a great day. Keep up the good work, and look forward to seeing and hearing more evidence from you in the future.
Sounds good.
All right. You take care. Have a great day.
Bye.
All right, guys, that is our show for this week. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for all the great questions and comments throughout the show. Thank you so much for being here with us. With that being said, we will be back next week. We are live again next week. I apologize for all the pre-recorded shows lately. I've tried to get some really good guests on, and unfortunately, like I've said on those episodes, the pre-recorded ones, people work. Surprisingly, people have jobs and can't come on live sometimes. So it just so happened that a lot of our shows had been pre-recorded, and we had to deal with that. But I got one more pre-recorded show coming up in 2 weeks, but we will be back here live next week. And of course, every Thursday, I'm usually live. I don't have any pre-recordeds coming up for that. So you can find us here on Thursdays as well on the Paranormal Spectrum. Until next week, guys, or until Thursday, if you watch that show. Until next time, I'm Barnaby Jones from Cryptids, Anomalies, and the Paranormal Society. Make sure you head on over to the Untold Radio Network. Check it all out. Like, subscribe, share. Head on over to Wisconsin CAPS, the Cryptids, Anomalies, and Paranormal Society if you want more of my research and all the stuff that I do. And in the show notes is a link to the Salish Sasquatch YouTube channel if you want to go check out more of Sarah's evidence, interviews, and stories over there. Until next week, guys, I'll see you on the edge.